Like you said, from my view, I was simply in talking about no was in contradistinction to belief. Now, either you walk, and I get the whole planet as an illusion that it's all happening in our minds. So I accept that. So in that sense, yes, everything is fiction, but we're here on planet Earth, and there's got to be. It's not that there's got to be, but there's a sense of reality on one side and a sense of fiction and fiction. Like people will talk about ghosts. People that have never seen a ghost, but because we got its image in our minds, so when someone says ghost, in their minds comes this concept of what a ghost is, and they may not be the same, but the term fits the picture, and so now we can have a conversation about ghosts, but yet no one's seen a ghost. Or perhaps nobody in the conversation has actually seen the ghost. So without actually having seeing it, you can't say you know, but you can. But so those conversations are based on nothing more than the belief, is what I'm saying, in contradistinction to no. It's not about claiming. Well, maybe it is, but that's my thing. It's just some kind of distinction here. So otherwise, there's no point in people even talking to each other.
Well, the thing of it is, though, in a way, you look at belief one way, and maybe I look at it the other way. But I was, for instance, here's an analogy. At one time, people used to claim the world was flat.
Yep.
All right? They said they know it's flat. But now, they know it's round. But could they be wrong there, too? Or is it just a belief? Is knowing maybe the same as a belief?
Well, like I said, then there's no point in people having conversations because then it's all bullshit. So what are we even doing here?
That's interesting. I was thinking maybe one of the biggest tests was to see if mankind could stop procreating and see maybe that would be the test because of greed, and I keep thinking why do we even having kids a mistake because we just fuck and whoops we had a kid, or do we intentionally have kids?
Hey, if it's all bullshit, maybe we could get over it and start having some fun.
But that would be bullshit too. What's fun?
Then I like bullshit.
And to pick up on Batman's analogy, and I agree with the point, except that, with the exception that, okay, so everybody said the world is flat. In their mind, they knew it's flat, but guess what? That knowingness was actually based on a belief because it wasn't knowingness. Now you go out and you float out in outer space and you look back to the planet, and if we agree that round, this circle, it means round, then we go, Jesus, not flat like flatlined, it's round like an apple. So just because people agreed doesn't mean they have that it's true, doesn't mean they know it to be a fact, whatever a fact is. But what I'm saying is in one sense, yes, it's flat. So when people see the word, when I see the word flat, I mean like a flat road, not a hilly road. A ruler, to me, lays flat on the floor. But an apple does not lay flat on the floor. So people can believe the world was flat and say, I know the world is flat. And yes, they almost killed Galileo for that when he changed the perspective. But in the end, all those who knew it to be flat were wrong, so they didn't have knowledge, so the whole thing was based on bullshit. It was a belief. That's my interpretation.
Yeah, and could it be just a matter of time that we might discover the world's square?
Yep, that's true.
I mean, who's to say knowledge and belief are any different then? I mean, it's what one believes is knowledge, or when one claims knowledge, I believe. It's a claim either way, and I say keep from making claims and say, well, yeah, who am I to argue with what you believe or what you say you know? But the point of the matter, could it be different? That's the only thing I'm trying to get out here, or I believe.
Well, in order for everyone to agree that it's square, somebody would have to draw a square, and everybody agreed that that's square.
Oh, really? I could talk somebody instead of believing that a circle is a circle, it's square, and a square is a circle, and they would just call it square, believing it's a
if they agree with you, sure.
Shape of a circle. Until one understands otherwise, that's the way it goes. Same way with dictionaries, law dictionaries. Why do I want somebody else's opinion when I'm talking to somebody else? You know, I want to know what they believe at the moment, see?
I think at this point that there's about 6 billion people on the planet that would say the world is round. So we got 6 billion people, plus or minus a few, in agreement that the planet is not flat, it is round. So therefore it's round.
Well, if that's what you know, who am I to argue?
And then 100 years from now, they could that term round could change to something else.
Wait.
6 billion people will accept that, plus or minus a few.
Does that go to like public and private and like to a commercial? Because I remember looking at a map, and I remember thinking, all right, where does this map come from? It comes from the commercial industry, and the map creates this commercial industry. But then when I started looking up different maps and stuff, different cultures have their own interpretation of what the world looks like. So I was thinking, like, where do we get our opinions from? Where do we extrapolate information from? The commercial world? The commercial world only recognizes, we already established to a degree, if you will, that they don't recognize man, if you will. They only recognize persons and all this kind of shit. So it's like, what the fuck? Every time I look at a map, all I see is commercial land. There has to be maybe, I would always thinking there has to be other land that's maybe private, that's not commercialized, so it's like not on the map.
Or maybe it's just a belief that it's all commercial. And maybe because we believe that, it is. For all intents and purposes. And that's why people pay taxes. I don't know. I like it when they first went out in space, and I don't know the truth of it, but I believe that when they were out in space, they took a shot of the planet, and I don't see Canada on there, I don't see United States on there, I don't see the borders, but I do use a map to get from point A to point A. It does help me get from point A to point B. But at the end of the day, I look back at the planet, and I don't see all of that corporate stuff. I see nature, whatever terms you want to put to it, but to me, it's not corporate stuff. So I don't, and I've crossed over borders from one province to another, and I don't see the imaginary line, and to me it's the same grass, the same dirt, the same connection. There's no separation, but yet you're right, commercially they divide it. It doesn't mean we have to accept that commercial aspect, therefore not partake in it if we choose not to. And so if we're not going to partake in that, there must be some other place to be, is all I'm suggesting. One of the things I'm suggesting, i.e. God's kingdom, whatever God means to people, nature.
Yeah, you guys ever heard of the Hollow Earth?
Yep.
Yeah.
I live in the state of Batman. There.
Permission to board, sir.
Sir, there's no sirs around here, but I'm sure I can come up with some laws for you to break and some taxes for you to pay. You want me to send you an application?
No, thanks.
Is it an application to beg?
Doesn't the title, sir, only exist in the fictional world, such as the cooperation of the United States?
Well, what is it, sir?
It denotes capacity or something like that? Status, office?
Exactly.
The term Mr. basically means, by dictionary definition, especially in the older days, people used to use it quite often. Hey, sir, hey, Mr. was a man or an unknown man, meaning you don't know his name. If it was Bob, you'd say hi, Bob, or hi, next door neighbor. But in the case of Mr. meant or implied an unknown man. So you'd see it often in movies. Hey, Mister. Hey, Mister.
I was led to believe it was people called on a ship. The captain would call him Mister.
Well, from the commercial perspective, sure. But I'm talking about nature again. So I've done it. I remember doing it as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Before my mind was consumed with other stuff, someone else's belief system. We've all gone to school and had stuff put in our heads that maybe we don't want there. Formulated belief systems from that, maybe knowledge, whatever. There's always two sides to the coin.
It's an ongoing learning process here.
Or unlearning.
Oh, unlearning, exactly.
Well, or stop claiming.
Or claim.
Who made a claim?
I said, or stop claiming.
Oh, okay.
Did I say anybody did it, or are you assuming?
I didn't assume nothing.
Oh.
Are you claiming?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not claiming.
What's the claim?
So I say if we can go down that path, and I agree with you, Batman, then there's no point in having these conversations, though, because it's all
right.
basically claims then. Everything that's coming out of everyone's mouth. I'm including myself in this equation. If everything coming out of everyone's mouth here is a claim.
But you think about it. Could it be the way to deal with one another?
But that's a claim. Yes, it could be, but that's a claim.
How's it a claim? I'm asking a question.
It's still a claim.
How's it a claim if it's a question?
Well,
I'll give you a claiming question.
Because you're asking if there's another possibility, which gives rise to another way, which to me, in my mind, is a form of a claim.
Well, I'll give you a question. I'll give you a question with a claim in it. Like, who's queer, you or your boyfriend? See? But when I'm just asking, could there be a better way, or could it be the best way to go about finding what somebody else thinks, believes, or claims they know by asking them instead of telling them what you believe? And could maybe you get farther by asking them why they believe what they believe or claim what they claim?
Let me share something that was shared with me that really caused me to think. And my friend phones up. He says there was a situation where I don't remember what it was, maybe in a movie or something, but somebody asked, "Do you believe in Santa Claus?" And the guy said, "No, I don't believe in Santa Claus." But in answering, "I don't believe in Santa Claus," he acknowledged the existence of Santa Claus. If you don't believe in Santa Claus and somebody asks you the question, "Do you believe in Santa Claus?" the appropriate answer, not to be making any claim, would be, "What's Santa Claus?"
Yeah. What do you mean?
What is that?
Yeah, it was a contract.
So, but the thing is by saying you do believe in Santa Claus or you don't believe in Santa Claus, we've given birth to the concept of Santa Claus.
Well, it's a
Either
claim.
way.
Yeah,
Either way, yes. That's my point.
You're getting good, Dick.
That's a claim. Yeah. I agree. See?
So,
For the time being, who knows?
So just entertaining the thought.
that's it.
So at times, why bring it up, eh?
Well, then that's the point, is to say when somebody says, "Do you believe in Santa Claus," or this or that, or this law applies to you, what law is that? Instead of saying it doesn't apply to me, say it doesn't apply to me. Now, that's a claim, right?
Yeah.
But if you say, "What law are you talking about?"
What about when the court will not render judgment on a silent record? What if you don't say anything? Don't bring anything up. Don't even acknowledge it. Start talking about tulips and shit.
That's pretty much exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, here's the catch with that one. If you go mute, allegedly it got Christ crucified. But when he asked a question, or he said, "You said that I am," in other words, and the only reason I'd be in court is I'd be asking them who's the one who claimed I made a claim until we can, I'd like to discuss this matter and see if we can settle honorably before it gets before the court. That's all I'm asking, you see. Usually, you ask me, chances are if you stay on point, it'll never go to court. That's the experiences I've been having with them lately, which haven't been too many, few between lately.
Sure, and I accept that. Another perspective why to remain silent, for example, is I think we all have this concept that if anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So obviously, if we say nothing, there's nothing that can come from your mouth to be used in a court of law. So you could walk into a court of law and say, "I'm exercising my right to remain silent," or let me rephrase that.
That's a claim.
That's a claim. That's right. So, do I have the right? Will anything I say in this court be used against me? And as soon as they say yes, you better shut up after that point. Now we got a silent record because they've said you have the right, that anything you say will be used against you. So your choice is then to say nothing. Now we've got a silent record. So therefore, nothing come out of your mouth that can be used against you.
Yeah. I'd like to find out who claims I made a claim, though. Usually you're going to find there's nobody there going to do it if you just hammer the point, you see.
I agree.
All they got is representatives of Santa Claus. I remember asking a judge that once. It was funny. What's the difference between the state of Tennessee and the Good Tooth Fairy? I asked him. He went mute.
All in the mind.
He knew it.
I had a cop say to me once, you need a license to operate on the King's Highway. I says, "Who's the king?" "Get out of here," he says.
Parking.
That was funny. So, the last time I stopped for the so-called police, I asked him that, he was asking about the licenses and stuff, and I says, "You got a license?" He says, "Yeah, I got a license." "It's your license, huh?" He says, "Yeah." I says, "What happens if the state of Tennessee asks for it back?" He says, "Well, I got to give it to him." I says, "Well, then how is it your license?" It was, anyway. He just gave me that deer in the headlights stare. It was.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, Vic has a sense of humor now?
What, you haven't been paying attention?
Is that a claim? And what's a sense of humour?
Yeah, exactly. Good one. Everybody's going to go silent now.
What's your definition of a sense of humour?
Your funny accent is one.
Yeah.
Hey, look who's talking.
What's a funny accent?
I guess it's what one assumes it is, huh? Right, Pay Girl?
Some may believe you have a funny accent. I, for one, well, I don't find nothing humorous about your accent. But hey, some may. Some may even find it offensive.
Oh, hey. Oh.
But then would that be a claim?
Could it be?
How can I help you?
How can I? Yeah. I'll be back in a few, boys and girls. If you're still here, I'll probably join in.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah. don't mention it.
Batman left the battlefield. So what's up, you guys? Yo, Vic, you're on the western side of Canada? Or in the middle, or on... You're not on the east, maybe?
More towards the east, yep. West of Quebec.
Okay.
One province.
Cool.
So it's more like in just east central.
Nice. Batman, I think, is on Tennessee. Brother Ace here, I think he's in, like, Ontario or something like that.
Who?
Ed, where are you at, Ed? New Jersey?
Puerto Rico.
Ed's in Puerto Rico. Larry's on Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Zippy's on UK. Yo, Hans, where are you at, bro? In Germany?
No, I'm in Kentucky.
You're in Kentucky.
Could it be that I'm the only one on a kingdom? And it's bullshit, eh? Whatever you believe.
That's right, but the thing is, you know, just please don't get into this no claim stuff. But there's things like I say, if people have these things, their thoughts in their head. Somebody says bike, you know, most people get a picture of what we're talking about. Somebody says car, we get a picture in our minds of what we're talking about. We can say Apple, we get these pictures in our mind what we're talking about. If the general consensus is there's some form of agreement, then for all intents and purposes, it's a fact in that sense. But if like I said on the call, if I say something like when I was a kid, I didn't know what the color orange was, so I called it Kirkle. But I was the only one that saw orange, what others would call orange. To me, it was Kirkle. So I was the only one that had that concept in my imagination, so I had no commonality with anyone else, is my point. Couldn't have a conversation about orange because what I was talking about when they were talking about was not one and the same thing. Later on in life, I came to know, oh, this is what most people agree or call orange. Then I could join in the conversations and agree now and say, yep, okay, that color is orange. Not because it is, because we all agree. It is.
It's the same as the daughter. I mean, when she was younger, she used to call her a cushion, a pushin, as in a pillow, and a cushion, a pushin.
There you go. So if she started talking about a pushin, I wouldn't have a clue what she's talking about.
Exactly. Until she picks it up. There it is.
That's it.
Language, communication.
Mm.
I found in all the interactions with the cops and stuff on the side of the road, and always had to do with right off the bat channeling. I know it sounds ridiculous, channeling liability or channeling, but setting straight who's who, setting straight who are the characters involved here. Who are you? And then when they ask me who I am, I let them know whatever, however I'm in that moment.
And what do you mean by yours?
And all those times, man, I'm still here to talk with you guys. You know? So it's pretty freaking hilarious. You would never think it, dude.
So, but seriously, just again, that's why I mentioned what that fellow up north in Petawawa did, calling the office of the Registrar General, and that was the effect. The cops don't bother him anymore. And the police chief up there, who was now retired, gave certain information, and there is a situation where when they punch a name into the computer system in the car or at the office, and if it says do not apprehend, call this number, none of them will call the number, because by the act of calling the number, they've already apprehended the guy. What they do is they say, have a nice day, man, or sir, whatever the case may be. That's the end of that.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing I'm seeking to get to that point, not to be able to be successful in court. I don't want to go to court, and if it says do not apprehend, then you're not going to go to court because they're not issuing any summonses or charges, right? Yeah. To me, that's a form of liberty. That's where I do what I do. I'm not interested in anything less than that, and it has to be there because some people, this chief knows about it, so obviously it's happened for some names or people, whatever. It can be done. If that's making a claim, I don't care.
Yo, what happened with the off the back of that same thing with the cars? The guy sent a letter to the Registrar General, and they sent the title to the car company.
Well, allegedly, that was to the Lieutenant Governor.
Gotcha.
And all he did allegedly was get the VIN number off the car, and then he sent it in and said, put it in this name. Now, what he included, the statement of birth, the birth certificate, or what, I have no clue.
Yes, yeah.
And yes, allegedly he got the car, and there wasn't no license plate, no insurance on it, but because it wasn't registered in the system, he got no jurisdiction, right? Allegedly. That's what I would say is the difference. In other words, the bill of lading, if you will, the title didn't get to the... well, the man didn't take it as a person.
Yeah, interesting, brother.
And again, the truth is I don't know the truth, but we got to kind of grab onto certain things, some that were along the way to lead us in certain directions, right?
Yeah, and check them out. Why not? Yeah. Well, the word, what would you say, Registrar General?
Yeah.
And what did the other guy do? The guy with the car, Lieutenant what?
Lieutenant Governor.
Oh, the Lieutenant Governor. Gotcha. So yeah, that's different. And the Registrar General is the guy off the back of the birth certificate.
That's that's the office that registers births. Yep. The Registrar General is responsible for registering births. In this province, that's what they're called. Other provinces have different terms, and maybe you got different ones in the States again, I don't know. But that's where it all starts. That's where the doctor's form goes, the notification of birth. That's the one that has the footprints on it. My buddy's got the copies of it, has the footprints on it, and says boy. There's no name on that document. The name comes into the equation when the parents do the certification of the statement of birth document and sign that. That's where the name comes into being now, and because again, there's no way for them to issue a birth certificate which requires a name on it. I'm getting that from the legislation, and they don't. And in fact, under the legislation, they don't care if there's a given name on the birth certificate. They can issue a birth certificate with only a family name or surname, and one way or another. Otherwise, anyhow, if they don't have that information on a certified statement of birth document, they will not issue a birth certificate because they got no name to put on it. Simple as that. And at the end of the day, to me, it's the parents are the author of the name. It's like the vital statistics more or less compels the parents to do this thing. So that's not done voluntarily, but what is done voluntarily, somebody applies for a birth certificate. Things reverse there. In other words, the government compels something come in, done. Later on, somebody volunteers up to apply for birth certificate, so it's gone. The venues have sort of changed there a little bit, is what I'm saying, I guess.
Interesting, bro.
So, but I don't have this guy with the car. I'm not sure about all of that. Could be just shady activity. But this guy that called the Registrar General is a fact. I talked to the guy last Christmas time.
Cool.
At a Wawa for 2 weeks.
Very awesome, bro. And have other people kind of jumped on that, if you will?
I have no knowledge of that.
Yeah.
I could say I believe they do, but what good is that? Truth is, I don't know the truth. But from where I'm sitting now, it's the fact that I believe that that's where all of these communications have to go. It's Vital Statistics Act with respect to the intake of documentation. They do not define the term person or child. It's not there.
I hear you on that.
But it is on the application for a birth certificate. That's the first time you'll see the word person in relation to the Vital Statistics Act. That application for a birth certificate is issued in accordance with the instructions of the Registrar General, blah, 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 under that act. And again, even on that form, the term person is not defined. And so in Ontario, here we have what's called the Legislation Act 2006. And any time a term person or individual is not defined in a piece of legislation, they must turn to the Legislation Act, and that's where they do turn. People have used that and walked away from cases. Person includes corporation, and individual means natural person, none of which I am. And so I guess the point is if we're subject to this jurisdiction somehow, then something we have done has stuck this label person to us somewhere along the way. And I'm looking at for myself, I did apply for driver's license. It's to use the term person. The health card, I looked that up the other day, not even about the card, just the numbers on the card. Very first definition, this relates to an insured person. There's that term person again. Social insurance is for unemployment, which is all to deal with persons. It's an insurable earnings insurance. None of those things, in my view, apply to nature, but they apply to the legal persons, the whole corporate realm, the commercial realm, as you call it.
Gotcha.
I think we all have the choice that we don't have to be there, but since we all have, well, most people I know went into that realm, then there's something that we have to do to get out. And Batman's approach is one of them.
Could the something we have done be claiming that certificate, if you will, belongs to us?
Like I said, it says right on the birth certificate, and who is the person named on the birth certificate? So I don't, if you mean by claiming applying for one, absolutely.
Well, and then I wonder who.
Let me put it this way. If nobody knows you have a birth certificate, then what is evidence you applied for a birth certificate? What evidence is there that there's a person in the equation? So the answer to your question is yes and no.
Now I can.
But if you
had it turned down. Oops.
In my view, if somebody goes in with a birth certificate and says, I'm not claiming this is mine, they don't give a shit about that, because what they're looking at is you applied for it, you're the person named on it. That's my take on it.
Well,
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Is that Vic talking?
First of all, I would suggest to you, in the case of this one, if you will, the legal name is different than what this one's called. And when I asked at the embassy where the so-called certificate was issued from, they told me that's the legal name and that's the call name.
That's
so
right.
It seems to me a name is not a man or a woman. A name is just possibly an identifier of something.
I agree with you. I didn't say the name is a man or a woman. It says there's two things going on here in this statement. Who is the person? Okay, corporate or natural person. Person means corporation or individual. Okay, so take your pick. Or pardon me, person mean in Ontario, person includes corporation, but they define individual to be a natural person. So clearly the term person does not include individual or natural person. So it says on the application for a birth certificate, who is the person? So who is the corporation named on the birth certificate? So we can talk about a corporation, but we don't know which one.
Yeah, but is there a question mark at the end of that sentence? I failed to recall there being one there.
I'm reading you right from the form in front of my face, right off the internet.
Is there a question mark at the end of that sentence?
Hang on, let me have a look. Just a sec.
What's the question, Mark?
I recall there's no question mark. It's a statement. Who is the person? So, and then I wonder who. What is that? World Health Organization?
Well, and you're quite right, and I get where you're coming from. No, there is no question mark on it. But let me take it further then.
You're in the boons, Vic.
And sitting in front of a computer. What do you mean by boons?
We can't hear you very well, or I failed.
Sorry. What do you mean?
Hi,
by
lady.
There you go. You sound better now, bro.
Are you saying there's a period at the end of that sentence?
Yeah.
It's a statement?
No, there is no period at the end of the sentence. Let me put it this way. I'm coming from the biblical perspective, which is not a biblical perspective, but it talks about in there that not to be respecter of persons, and the actual act of sitting down and requesting a birth certificate is the act of giving respect for persons. If you don't want to go in that realm, then don't apply for the birth certificate. And if you've already got the birth certificate, I got to get rid of the birth certificate. And there's no concept whatsoever. In fact, people in Canada here who have put into evidence solely the statement of birth document, that's the one the parents signed and the government has the original, and didn't put any words to it, didn't add to it, they get relief every time. But yet they have a birth certificate at home. See, it hasn't been brought into evidence. So in my view, to walk into court and say, I'm just using this, that's the evidence, that's all the evidence the guys on the other side of the fence need to see you as a person. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone into court with the birth certificate. I've been there, done that, and said, just so we're clear here, I'm not Victor Beck, the name is Victor Beck. No, we don't want to hear that. They'll do that every single solitary time. And now I finally got it. I got to get rid of that puppy. I got to get rid of all government documentation. That's what I'm at. I'm not preaching people here.
For what it's worth, I believe it's the claims one makes.
If you got a birth certificate, a claim's already been made.
Well, there you go. But what part of that claim do we have to do with? Is our signature on the birth certificate, if you will?
Remember
so
what
if that's the case.
Remember what I. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I would ask then, what makes anyone believe I'm liable for that name?
I get that. I understand that. But if you've never had the name, they couldn't drag you into that realm. And this is what I'm saying. What the police chief said in Petawawa, if they punch in a name and it says "do not apprehend," clearly someone has done something there that they have no jurisdiction to attach the title person under a particular piece of legislation.
I feel to disagree.
So most that doesn't apply to very many. That doesn't apply to very many people. So obviously everyone else has done something to be recognized or being treated as the person subject to that piece of legislation, i.e., the Highway Traffic Act, Income Tax Act. So the fact that they can flag the system internally somehow into the information system in the police cars with the computer system, it says "do not apprehend." Something has occurred there to detach the concept of person applies to that guy. So that he doesn't have to open his mouth. He just says, "Here, officer, run the name." When they run the name, oh, sorry, have a nice day. And so, like it says, and it's in the Bible, about if we have respect for persons, then we have already sinned. We're convinced of the law.
I believe it also says...
But you're quite right. If you don't claim anything, that's another way to not get wrapped up in the situation. I agree with that. But if we've never actually had any of that document in the documentation in the first place, there's no proof that you're even in the game. So it's kind of like the same thing as doing something to get out of the game later on in life.
Well, the thing of it is, the last time I got pulled over, or stopped, whatever you want to call it, they kept hammering the name, and I says, "You mean the one I've been known to use?" "No, we need your name." "Well, how can I give you something I don't have?"
That's it. I agree with that. If you don't have any of this government documentation, how can you give them something you don't have? Exactly.
Well, but never mind documentation. I've been known to use it. The thing was, I wasn't making a claim it was mine, see? I've been known to use that.
Yep. Well, I had a friend up in Bancroft here in a $4 million grow-up. He stuck to the guns. It was June of 2008. It made 3 court appearances and never, ever made joinder with the name. And the judge finally comes out and says, well, if there is somebody here named Chester so-and-so, today's a good day. The Crown has stayed the charges. So I get that.
See, the thing of it is, no controversy, no claim, no charges. The court can zero the account. Because actually all money is, if you ask me, is people claiming they own something, or if, unless one's using it because that's what others want. But in general, unless there's claims, where's the controversy? And they can zero the account that way. And I find it worked fine for me a couple of times. But anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't think that Father would want us, doing these things for somebody else other than him, and I don't think that name serves him anyway. He doesn't need us to have a name. He knows us by our works.
The point of it is, though, is it true in there somewhere? It says that all is good, everything's there to bring glory to him?
Yep, as long as we're not respecter of persons. That's part of it. And faith without works is dead. So to me, part of that implies that faith is have faith in the Father. I don't need documentation from anybody.
Who says you needed it?
I don't need to use it. I don't have to use it.
No,
I don't have to say I have it. I don't have to say I'm using it.
I believe you're missing the point here. The thing is, it's whether the thing of it is there was no claims. I've been known to answer to that name or that sound. I think I told him I like to use that sound. And yeah, I've been known to use that name. The thing of it is, everything's here to use. It's when you make the claim you become a respecter of persons. In other words, you believe you're putting one above the other or you're putting one below you. By claiming one owes you something, you're putting a burden on them. By claiming you owe somebody, well, you're claiming they're above you. You see?
I understand. I get that. I agree with you 100%. No argument.
So why claim at all? What's the controversy concerning me? How can I help you? Unconditional love.
Because I believe that when I do the right thing, I will step back into the kingdom of God and I will receive my birthright. And there's this now. I don't know the truth of what I'm going to say here, and it's like I said on the call to the guy. I don't know the truth of this, but my friend got wind of a woman in Ontario, here where I'm at now, where a woman did something with her birth certificate. He got this with a guy that works in a prison system, which my friend also works in as a guard in a prison. This guy says, "Oh, I've been looking for you, Lee. I used to work with this woman in the prison in Brampton when he transferred to London, and he was aware of Lee." He says, "This woman did something with her birth certificate, and the government bought her and her kids a house and set them up in business." Now, to me, they've received their divine inheritance. They're out of the whole monkey business game. They're out of the commercial realm. The difference here is the government did it for them on behalf as gatekeepers, if you will, of the situation, or whatever you want to call it. But they received their inheritance. That's kind of how I see things go. In other words, rather than us having to claim stuff, the government is doing this for them. It's a reverse of where the source is. Who's signing on the hook here?
Right.
In other words, when the government bought it for them, the government put itself on the hook, whereas most people go out there and put, I'm the owner of the house. I get that. I'm just saying. So sorry. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask, could it be we have not because we asked them this? We're asking the wrong questions or making the wrong claims? Could it be?
This is why I believe that the birth certificate is how we got into this mess in the first place, through the office of the Registrar General, and it can be redeemed there so we can receive our inheritance, and then it reverses everything. So if you have use of this stuff, whether you use the name, the system says, yep, he's redeemed this to receive his birthright. He's no longer a respecter of persons by getting rid of that thing completely. And he's in the kingdom of Father. He has no need for this stuff. He's in the kingdom of Father. Father doesn't issue this stuff. Government does. And the government pays for the house because I believe all children of God are entitled to use of these things, not ownership. I get that. But somebody's got to pay the price because that's the world we live in these days, commercially. What I'm saying is that birthright, and this is why I've been doing it for the last 10 years, because I know it to be true. I haven't found it yet. I admit that. But there is another venue where we will receive our birthright, liberty, roof over the head, car, not $1 million, not a pot of gold. And once we've done the right thing, stop sinning before God, not man. This is not about me sinning before men. This is about me disrespecting my Father in heaven. The judges are the father of the country. My Father's in heaven. If I'm before a judge, then I see that the system here, the government, whatever, is going to make these purchases for the children of God is how we receive our inheritance without the burdens that persons have. And there's no need for me to get involved in, like you're talking about. I agree with everything you're saying, but what are you going to make claims for? When you've got to that point, obviously, you don't own anything, so you're not going to sign on the hook. You just pick up the phone and say to the government, yep, I'm so-and-so number whatever, and you guys got me down there as a son of God, no longer a person, and I don't want this house anymore. I'd like to move to that house, take care of it. I don't know the truth of it, but that's why I do what I do. I get the part about not making claims. I believe that there is a birthright there for all of us. And in that realm, that we've all stepped out of that realm, most of us, by doing something that got us out of that realm, and that we can get back to that realm. That's to me, that's what the story of the prodigal son is. When the prodigal son came back home, he wasn't subject to as a citizen where he had to not make any claims and all this sort of that, this and that, the other thing. He was there and he received his inheritance, but his father was still alive.
You guys ever hear about the idea how, like, over here in the States, there's the 14th Amendment citizen? That's like the federal United States citizen. Then there's the state citizen. And it's like the state citizen has, like, the open door to everything. And then the federal citizen, or the United States citizen, is, like, pays the duties and taxes on everything. You know? Is that kind of the same? Like, maybe even on Canada, you guys are Canadian citizens, and then you're like provincial members as well.
Well, I'm neither. I'm none of those things.
I hear you, but like, this is the thing. The end game, what's the end game? Where,
like I said, to
where
me,
one still has use of commercial things, but like at arm's length, where the liability goes somewhere else.
Like I say, it's basically let's call it a citizen of God, then, the creator of the earth, that gave man dominion over it. Blah 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 blah. Whether true or not, but that's what I see. That realm is there for all of us who choose it. And then when I'm there, I cannot also be double-minded and be of Ontario or be of Ontario. Pardon me, Canada. All that to me is legal mumbo jumbo stuff. We're deeply programmed in the minds that we think we got to work with that. It's all act. All that stuff is under acts. Acts require actors, and actors wear masks. That's what the person is. That's the whole Roman thing, right? The persona, the personification, blah blah blah.
Character.
Yes. And let me share this, and this I found this very interesting, and it really got me thinking. There was a landlord-tenant case here where a guy was being treated as the tenant. He was come before a landlord-tenant board. What he did was he put the statement of birth into the court file, and come the day to make the appearance with the court, he signed in as the alleged tenant. Now, again, he didn't put any paperwork. He didn't say anything. All he did was put a certified copy of the statement of birth, which is a document the parent signed, into the court file. He appeared that day, or pardon me, didn't appear. That's an act. He walked in that day, signed in as the alleged tenant, and the instant he did that, a lawyer from the Attorney General's office approached him and says, "Do you mind if I call you Johnny?" Okay? He didn't say, "Hi, Johnny." He said, "Do you mind if I call you Johnny?" He says to Johnny, and Johnny says, "No problem. What do you intend to do here if they proceed?" Johnny says, my friend says, "File criminal charges." The lawyer says, "I figured as much," and then proceeded to do, here's what happened. He took over and he told the court, "I'm not here to represent this man. I'm here to mediate. This court does not have jurisdiction over this man." And he holds up the statement of birth, points to the name on it, and says, "The name on your paperwork is derived from this document, and this document is protected, and this name is protected under the Guardian Act," whatever that means. Point is, the lawyer stepped in to mediate the situation, and clearly saying, this court does not have jurisdiction over this man. And that was it. He walked out, done. The lawyer from the Attorney General's office mediated. So this supports what Batman says about not making any claims. I get that. He just put in their own evidence, but he didn't put any words to it. He didn't say anything. The lawyer approached him. But somehow, some way, there's that other realm where men are men, 24/7, and men and children of God, and in that jurisdiction, there's no limitations. You need a roof over your head? Ask and you shall receive. You got to ask for. You say, "I'd like that place over there." You got to ask, right? If that's making a claim, so be it. But they got to know what you want in that jurisdiction. As far as I'm concerned, basically there's gatekeepers here that are holding all of the children's inheritance under guard, if you will, until the people show up in the right manner, in which case it will be released to them. That's what I mean by redemption. To redeem the birth certificate in order that I may receive my birthright as a child of God. I'm giving up the person. That's what because if I got the birth certificate in my hand, I don't need that from any government. I don't need what do I need a birth certificate for unless I get something from government? So that I'm just sharing these things here, and those are true statements. Those are facts that I know to be. I was there.
Vic, how can we give up a person that fails to belong to us, if you will?
I'm giving up the documentation. I'm giving up the birth certificate. That didn't come from God. That came from under an act, under the Vital Statistics Act. If I have it, I'm part of that act. Let me say that again. If I have something in my possession that is issued under the authority of an act, legislation, then I am a party to that act. Acts require actors, and actors wear masks. Mask is the person. Now, if I don't want to be a party to the act, then I got to give up what got me connected as a party to that act. That's clear cut for me.
Well, that means you'd have to stop using so-called money then too, huh?
Absolutely.
So
I'd have no need for it. As once you receive your birthright under God, what do you need money for? You're there to love your brother, right? Loving my brother. I don't need money. If I need money, then it's given to you for a particular purpose, but not commercial purposes.
The point of it is, but you're still using it, right?
But I'm not using it for burdening my brother. And I don't know what happens there.
Why are you bringing that up? I just asked if you were still using it. I use it. No big deal. Thing of it is it mine? Well, I fail to recall owning anything. What evidence you have, it's mine.
I didn't say it was. I didn't say it was mine.
Did I say you said
I don't have any evidence.
Mammoneers, the both of you.
What evidence do you have of that, Larry?
Larry, shut the fuck up.
The point that's I don't know that folks seem to be missing here in England, and apparently it's quite common over there that the government buys people homes over there, very nice homes. They do every one of these cases that I've heard. Back to this lady in Ontario. So my friend Lee got wind of this woman in Ontario who allegedly did something with her birth certificate. That's the one where the government bought her and her kids a house and set them all up in business. In other words, the government's paying the bill, so no, she doesn't need money.
Well,
hang on, let me finish. So Lee got the phone number and he phoned this woman. They were exchanging pleasantries. Hi, how you doing? My name's Lee, blah, 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 blah. And as soon as he mentioned the birth certificate, that was the end of the conversation. It was over. That suggests to me some kind of a non-disclosure thing.
Could be. Yeah.
I don't know the truth of it. I get that, but so Lee did actually talk to this woman, and as soon as he mentioned it, boom, the conversation was over. So I think, and that's why I do what I do, if there's something about that birth certificate that has to be done, I can get rid of the health card, I can get rid of the passport, I can get rid of the social insurance card, all of these other things that basically deal with persons. They're all defined in the legislation as a person. If I have it, I think that's a problem. That's a problem for me. The last thing is the birth certificate, which is the first thing. The last shall be first, the first shall be last. Right?
Well,
so the last thing to get rid of here is the birth certificate, and I believe that can be redeemed so we can receive our divine inheritance. Whatever that equates to, I can't tell you because I'm not there, but I believe that's why I do what I do.
Could it be them documents? They're made out of paper, right? That comes from wood, right?
Yep. Allegedly, yep. Fair enough.
Could you be worshiping wooden idols?
That's the point. Respect our persons and graven images. Exactly. So I don't want any of that stuff in my possession. I don't need it.
Well, the thing of it is, the difference. What I'm saying, whether you need it or not, is probably you probably don't. Most people get along fine if they can get a little bit to eat and drink, and they go along pretty easy.
Our father owns everything on the planet. Let me toss that in there.
Well, the point is, though, could it be that the belief that they're wooden idols be what's keeping you from coming to peace with the whole system? Because I believe the system runs beautifully and perfectly.
So are you saying to give it up, or just to say I'm using it?
Well, use it, or but claim it. You got to get rid of it. It's a claim. You ask me. Could that be causing you to be in a kind of a prison? Because I find the more I make claims, the more I feel I'm bound, and I find the more I ask questions, the more fun I have, and the more I learn about other people.
I get that, but so I understand you here. So we're on the same page here. Let me put it that way. Are you saying then? I'm just asking a question here because I'm not clear. Are you saying that it's okay to use the birth certificate so long as you don't claim ownership of it, kind of thing?
Well, yeah. In general, what's the difference between using or a glass of water?
So now I can answer your question and say yes, it's possible. Is it possible that you can give that birth certificate back and receive your birthright, a divine inheritance? Is that possible?
I give up. It could very well be possible.
Okay,
There's
so we
no
got
argument. There's no argument in here what you're trying to do. I tend to agree. There's something there. It's just I think it's the manner of how we go about getting there.
No question. No question.
Yeah, more important.
Absolutely.
Asking the right people and showing them that you are a peaceful individual, and you know you're an inhabitant on this planet, and you don't see any division. You just you respect everybody around you, whether they believe they're the Bloods or they believe they're United States citizens, whatever. I'm happy for you. Why they believe it, maybe we can discuss it sometime. But once you start showing the so-called government officials that that's the true nature, maybe that door will fly wide open for you.
Right. So is it possible then by returning the birth certificate for the right reasons is letting go of all claims?
Could be. Could it be? Yeah, send them the birth certificate. I got a copy of this birth certificate. Would this help settle the matter? See?
No, I mean returning it, giving it back once and for all. Never have it, giving up possession of it completely, photocopies, all of it. Never presenting it again, never having it again. Is it possible that giving up the birth certificate is giving up evidence of claims or something like that?
Could very well be, or could it how you use the birth certificate show them that you have no claim? See?
Yep. So we got two possibilities. So there's two possibilities here. I agree.
Well, only a kid can enter the kingdom.
So you guys take your approach. I'll take mine, and we'll meet each other on the other side. How's that?
When did I ever claim it was my approach?
I didn't say you claimed it.
Oh.
I'm just mirroring what you said. Sorry. It's not meant to be a claim.
Vic, are you familiar with the story of Paul?
Which one?
Well, if I'm correct, the one where he was just about getting ready to get a beating laid onto him, and then he asked, "Are you allowed to beat a Roman?" And then he provided the so-called token.
Yep, I'm familiar with that one. And then they stopped beating it. Yep. They walked away. Yep.
So then I would ask you, do you think so-called surrendering this thing may be best?
For me, yep.
What do you mean surrender it? The thing of it is,
return it.
If it would help settle the matter, the thing of it is, it's only a copy.
But here's my point. If I don't have it, I'm not involved in any matters. What matter is there to settle? This is all I'm suggesting. If I don't have it, what matter is it possible when I don't have the birth certificate and I've given it back and for the right reasons, I've given up all these other government documentations. Is it possible I'm not involved in any matters that they're going to flag do not apprehend? Is that possible?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, so then I've got nothing to settle. So I don't need it to settle then. Is that possible?
I agree, but I agree with you. I believe it's possible. All things are possible. The thing, what I'm trying to say is, could it be the attitude from the ego is talking louder than the heart, and they see that. They know the difference between one who's coming at peace and one who's at war. And could that be what's keeping it from moving along to where, we can use all this stuff without having to jump through these hoops that we believe that are there?
Absolutely. Let me share something here that maybe helps with my perspective and why I come from the perspective I do. And good, bad, right, or wrong, it is what it is. Has anybody here read the I Am discourses?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in reading the I Am discourses, it's basically it comes across like this: if I'm taking anything from the outer world, remember Jesus says I'm in the world but not of it. Now, if I'm taking some documentation that is of the world, the best I'm going to get out of that is a net loss of something. So when I read that stuff, and I believe that stuff to be true, I said, well, then I got to get rid of all of this stuff that is of the world because it's tying me to the world. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
So that's why I say I don't need any of this stuff. It's like God doesn't need any of this stuff. We're all, well, it's subject to interpretation, but I believe we're all gods, we're all majesties, and not one of us needs any of this stuff. But from where I'm coming from is to take something from the outer world as if I need it or even just to use it. I'm giving up. It just equates to a net loss of something. That's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying it's right, but I know that for me to be the truth.
Right. Well, yeah, that's fine. The thing of it is, the meaning of the world mean one's making claims, and where one is in the world, one is just like the spirits in the body, using the body. Where's the body come from? The minerals and water and stuff from the world, right? And we're spirits, and they're using it. You want to give that up too? Or are you claiming it's yours? And then wait a minute, let me finish, please. And if you're claiming it yours, could that mean you're of the world because you claimed it, thereby it owns you, and you believe you own it?
Oh, absolutely. Then I'm binding myself to the world. I agree with that profusely. The difference is that God created the earth, and an act of legislation created the birth certificate. So if the body being of the soil, and I know it's not my body, I'm renting the body. The body is a tool through which the soul creates an experiences. I get that, and it's not mine. I understand that. And God did create the earth, so God owns the body. Put it that way. And I don't mean that as a claim, but the birth certificate is issued under a legislation of an act of parliament, which is an outer world activity. So, from where I sit, I don't need anything that's of this world, except the body. Yes, the body is of this world, but God created the world, so it's God's body. But the birth certificate, and I've got a letter right here, I couldn't find it right at the moment, was issued to a friend in Manitoba, and it says very clearly on it that the full legal title in a birth certificate does not pass to the recipient, and I'm not the author of it. It's not mine. And personal means something belonging to a man or a woman. Look it up in the dictionary. And it's not, but the Registrar General says it's not personal identification. So what you was saying is it's not property belonging to men and women. And the courts say if the legislation requires a fee is paid, and a fee is required to be paid for a birth certificate, it is not a contract, so you're not purchasing it, so therefore title does not pass.
Yeah. And I'm Elmer J. Fudd, millionaire. I own a mansion and a yacht. I love you, Vic. I understand. I believe. Well, understand. I comprehend where you're coming from.
It's okay.
I was there many years ago, if you ask me. But yeah, it's if it works for you, brother, I love you. I hope it does.
And I hope what you guys are doing works. And like I said,
what are you trying to say? If it doesn't work for him, you don't love him?
Well, no.
I'm not taking it that way.
It's unconditional love, Vic. And Larry, now I'm going to make an exception to the rule. If I see you around here again, never mind. I ain't going to say that. Just kidding.
So I agree, though, that yes, it's absolutely possible that you can use the birth certificate, and as long as you're not making any claims, everything is hunky-dory. But I also accept another possibility, that I can redeem it for my birthright, to belong to the children of God, the living God. You know, if anyone here is, I've got 2 kids. I'm alive, their mother's alive, and they're both heirs to the estate. So it doesn't mean somebody has to die to be an heir.
No, but usually somebody dies before one inherits it.
Well, then that would be taking ownership now, wouldn't it? All things belong to God. There's a little bit of a difference there. All things belong to God, so the inheritance is basically the use of what belongs to God. What God, it's actually in Acts 4:32 in the Bible, that we share these things.
We. Could that mean everyone on this rock?
The children of God, yes.
Yeah.
Children of the light. The men and women. The children, yes. So when I'm in God's house, when I was in my dad's house, all legal mumbo jumbo aside for the moment, everything in that house belonged to him. But I got use of it. But I was still an heir. But my Father's in heaven. That's the difference.